I've been thinking a lot about improvement and growth lately. Everyone talks about growth like it's just movement, doing more, changing more, pushing harder. But the more I sit with it, the more it feels like growth can actually live in the tension between two opposite things: wanting stability and wanting change, and not really knowing how to hold both at the same time. Improvement is usually shown as constant progress before and after, but most of the time it doesn't feel like that. It feels like maintenance, like holding things together while you slowly adjust them. I think stability gets a bad reputation sometimes. Like, if you want things to stay the same, you're not growing. But stability is what keeps everything from falling apart. It's routines, familiar places, knowing who you are on most days, and without that, change just feels like chaos. At the same time, change is uncomfortable by default. It's uncomfortable by nature. Even good change. It interrupts things that are working just enough to make you nervous. And I think that's why I avoid it sometimes. Not because I don't want better, but because I don't want to lose what already feels safe. It feels like there are two extremes: stay the same and feel stuck, or change everything and feel unstable. And it makes me wonder if growth is less about choosing a side and more about not swinging too far either way. Sometimes what looks like self sabotage is really just self protection. Ability pushes you back when you try to change it. Your brain wants you to keep what it understands, even if what it understands isn't perfect. There's also this fear that if you change too much, you won't recognize who you are anymore, or you'll outgrow people and places that you still care about. The middle part is the hardest: being stable enough to not fall apart, but uncomfortable enough to actually move. It's not exciting, it's just tense. And most of the growth seems to live right there. I never really know if I'm improving in real time. It's not measurable. You only notice it later in life when something that used to be hard doesn't hit the same way anymore. And I think part of the hesitation comes from not wanting to mess it up, changing too slowly, changing for the wrong reasons, or becoming someone I don't actually want to be. That fear can be paralyzing. Lately, I've been trying to let both things exist: wanting stability and wanting change. Not forcing clarity right away, just trusting that sitting in the tension might be part of the work. I think part of why improvement feels so confusing is because it's usually shown as something very visible. Like, you're supposed to wake up one day clearly better than before. But most of the changes I've noticed in myself didn't look like progress at all. They were boring, and they looked like maintenance, and it made me question whether anything was happening even when it was. Stability is underrated. Having routines, knowing what your days look like, knowing how you usually react to things, that's safety. And I think sometimes we talk about stability like it's the enemy of growth, when really it's the thing that gives you enough ground to stand on so you don't fall apart when things change. Change almost always is uncomfortable before it feels good, even if it's good for you. And I think I confuse discomfort with danger sometimes. My instinct is always to pull back even when I know the things that I'm avoiding might, actually help me grow later. It can feel like there are only two options normally. Like, you either stay exactly the same and feel stuck, or you change everything at once and you feel overwhelmed. But neither of those actually feel healthy. Sometimes extremes can make you feel decisive. They feel like you're doing something even if they're not sustainable. Sometimes the part of me that wants stability pushes back against change without me realizing it. It normally shows up as like a hesitation, or quote unquote now isn't the right time mindset, or like convincing yourself that staying comfortable is the safer option, even when I know comfort and growth aren't always the same thing. There's also this big underlying fear that if I change too much, I'll lose part of myself that I actually like. Or, you outgrow people and spaces that you care about. You want things to be better, but you don't want them to be completely different because it creates tension. And tension is stressful. The space between staying the same and changing is always super uncomfortable. You know, you're not broken, you're not fixed, you're not settled, you're just aware. And that awareness can feel heavier than a lot of other feelings sometimes. You never really know if you're improving while it's happening. There's no scoreboard or tell for it. Sometimes the only sign is that something that used to trigger you doesn't anymore, and even that can be easy to miss. I grew up with a lot of anger issues, and I went to therapy for a long, long time for it. And I noticed a lot of the triggers that happened when I was younger don't affect me anymore. And I know that's changed, but I never ever woke up one day and was like, oh, that change is gone. No, you just notice it after a while. I think the fear of being good slowed my growth more than anything else. Like, it took me too long, so I started fearing that I was changing too slowly. And I was changing for kind of like the wrong reasons. That fear doesn't stop you from wanting to grow, it just makes you overthink every step. Lately, I've been trying to let both things be true, wanting stability and wanting change, not forcing myself or anyone to pick one, just trusting that sitting in tension might actually be part of growth. I don't think growth is choosing one side or the other. I think it's staying stable enough to not fall apart, while changing just enough that you don't stay the same. And I don't really know how to do that cleanly yet. I'm just noticing the tension and trying to stay inside it.